So, A Star is Born is out next week.
It is.
It stars Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper, who also directed the film. We'll hear my conversation with Bradley after this clip featuring Lady Gaga as Ally and Bradley Cooper as Jackson, Maine.
Can I ask you a personal question? Do you write songs or anything?
I don't sing my own songs.
Why?
I just don't feel comfortable.
Why wouldn't you feel comfortable?
Well, because, almost every single person that I've come in contact with in the music industry has told me that my nose is too big and that I won't make it.
Your nose is beautiful. Are you showing me your nose right now?
Yeah.
You don't have to show it to me. I've been looking at it all night.
Oh, come on.
Oh, I'm going to be
you're
thinking
not.
about your nose for a very
You're
long I'm not
Yeah,
I'm
you
telling you
are.
the truth.
Yeah, you're
Can I touch your nose?
Oh, my gosh.
Let me just touch it for a second.
And that is a clip from A Star is Born. I'm delighted to say I've been joined by its star and director, Bradley Cooper. How are you, Bradley?
Hey, great.
I have to
Thanks for
say,
having me.
respect to you, because you came in and said, we've met before, and I said, yes, but not since 2011, and that was Limitless. So that's going back a long way. You've got a good memory.
Well, you're very memorable, either way.
That's encouraging, maybe. So that must seem like a long time ago.
It does, yeah, gosh.
Compare what it's like, because you've done promotion for so many movies. We were talking to Idris Elba recently about
I love him.
his directorial debut, because he came and talked about Yardi, and we were just talking about a comparison between promoting a movie that you're in as opposed to a movie which is yours.
Oh, interesting.
What does this feel like, going around telling people about this movie, because you're not just the star of it, one of the stars, but it's your picture?
Well, it's always good when you're talking about something that you love. That makes these things a lot easier. I certainly love this movie. It was the movie I set out to make. And I came from a kernel of an idea deep inside me. So yeah, you're right. That's different. But I have had the great honor to have been a part of movies that I was very invested in, and so I felt that before, like with American Sniper and stuff like that.
Sure. Why did you choose this project to be your directorial debut?
It was one of those things where it's not one moment. It's compositions. I've always wanted to be a director. I think I'd never really admitted it to myself or had the courage to really articulate it intellectually to myself. But when I was 12 and I saw The Elephant Man, it was as much of what David Lynch was doing as what John Hurt and Anthony Hopkins and Anne Bancroft were doing as well. And I think I just got to a point. I'd had so many great experiences, and I'm getting older, and time is the biggest currency as you get older. And all these things that are swirling around, these themes that I wanted to investigate story-wise, like trauma as a kid, family, what it means to find your voice in this life, what happens when two people actually love each other. These were all things I kept thinking about, and this property that Warner Brothers owns came about to me in the position of Clint Eastwood when he was going to direct the movie. So that's when I first became acquainted with it, and it just stayed with me even though we didn't do it together. And finally, it was actually a dream I had, and I saw the opening of the movie, and then I pitched that dream to Warner Brothers, which wound up being really the engine for most of the movie, and we wound up not even shooting it.
Wow. Is that the first time that's happened, that you actually dreamt a sequence and then thought, okay, this is the way I'm going to pitch it?
You know what? Not to get too hokey, but I started meditating about 3 years ago, and a lot of stuff comes from meditation too, I have to say.
So what's that, kind of a freewheeling mind, maybe reaching in?
I don't know.
further?
It feels like you're receiving it. There's the entire sequence in the garage, the framing, the whole thing, the hat, the whole thing came. That was one, because it's one shot, and it all came through a meditation, and I saw the whole thing. Because I was trying to rack my brain how to do it in a way that serves so many different things. I wanted him to be on stage for the last time because I know I wanted lights behind him, so he's almost closing the curtain in the stage on us. He always takes his hat off before he performs, so he's like saying goodbye to that character and that freedom that he always had on stage since he was a kid. So it was just, I knew those things were things I wanted to show, but I didn't know how to show them, and then it all came in that sort of...
Did you go back to the 1937 version, the 1954 version, the 76 version?
You know your dates.
Yeah. Did you want to watch those, or did you just?
Yeah.
You did.
But I love movies, and I just can't believe I hadn't seen the Frederick March and the Frederick March, Janet Gator, and then the George Cukor version. I hadn't seen that, and the truth is, I hadn't really seen the Streisand Christopherson. You grow up with it. You know, I was born in 1975. It was at 76 it came out. You know, so as a kid, that the shock waves of that movie were still reverberating into the 80s.
So tell us about Jackson, Maine.
Yeah, Jackson, Maine. I love that guy. He was born out of a lot of things personal to me, and also wanting to, what interests me about this kind of archetype. And I think in that sense, going back to your question about the other movies, he's very different than those other versions. He's not a guy that cares anything about his fame. First of all, and it's not really dwindling. I mean, this guy is going to keep making millions of dollars because he can tour, and that's just the reality in general. And he also is not jealous about being eclipsed by somebody else's stardom. It's just not how he functions. That was very interesting to me, to create a character that was traumatized. He's basically 13 years old. That's why he's sort of joyfully taking her eyebrow off, and he's almost like a kid all the time. And he's just trying to do a good job. And he loves what he does. But he's been stymied by the fact that he never cultivated the rest of his life. You know, he had this traumatic situation. His father died when he was 13. His older brother, who he idolized, was off trying to make, a living as a musician. They came back. They started playing music together. And then his brother wound up, being completely envious of him because he had this songwriting ability, and then he became huge as a kid, and he never cultivated the rest of his life. So he's 43 years old, and he's got nothing else, and he's almost like a prize fighter. And I talk to a lot of musicians because what's the thing that happens to your body? And it's hearing. It's the first thing that goes.
Yeah, and he has tinnitus or tinnitus, as you'd say.
Whatever it is,
and he's an addict, but we can talk more about him in a second. But we do need to talk about Lady Gaga because this is she's a huge star, but this feels like a career-changing moment for her because she's quite extraordinary. Just explain how you came to work with her and how she sort of inhabits this film.
I mean, there's no movie, the version of this movie, there's no movie without her. First of all, she's the nuclear weapon with all that, with the singing. So I'd seen her at a cancer benefit that I was at, and she performed that cover of La Vie en Rose that I wound up writing into the movie. And
where she ends up lying on the bar to do the final notes. Yeah.
And that was influenced. You ever see that short Life Lessons, Martin Scorsese short? There's a great short where it's about a muse and an artist and a Tribeca downtown, and Nick Nolte plays Lionel Dolby, and there's Scorsese does that sort of close-up 48 frames, and that was what inspired that shot when she looks at him. That's what you're referring to, right?
Yes, that's right. Like the first time the
first time she sees him is actually when she's starting to walk, but then she decides to show him that she sees him in that moment. So I was at this cancer benefit. I saw her sing that song, and then she just decimated the room, just demolished the room. Everybody was in awe of what she had just done. I felt like we were in some time warp. I mean, it was incredible what she did. And I thought, wow, I've got to just meet her and just talk to her about this project. Because I had already started to write it, and I'd been working on it for about a year and a half, but there was no person yet. And I went and met with her, and the minute I met her, she was so present, and I didn't even know what she looked like. In her eyes, I could see her eyes and her face, and she has a great speaking voice, and I just felt comfortable, and we just started talking about it, and we started singing at her piano. I had thought about maybe we should sing together to see if this even works.
Straight up, first time?
First time, within like 15 minutes. Yeah, I noticed a piano in her living room, and I said, do you mind if we sing this old folk song, Midnight Special, which she did not know. So we printed up the sheet music, and she played it, and we just sang through it once, and we actually recorded it. And there was just this, she made me feel so comfortable, the fact that I was willing or able to sing with her, or attempt to, that made me feel comfortable. And then I thought, if I could just capture how real she's being with me, if I can get her to be that real, at the very least, I think we'll be okay. Yeah. And then she wound up surpassing that. I mean, all you could ever ask for as an actor is that the other person is real and talking to you, so all you have to do is react. And that's what it was like every time I worked with her.
Can you talk a bit about the music and it's all live? That's the great thing, and I think I physically relaxed after the first 2 minutes because it starts with Jackson coming on and playing an extraordinary song. We see you taking some pills and taking some booze, but you play the song and it's a blistering song, and then immediately I thought, okay, this is going to be great. So you learn to play guitar, you can sing.
And by the way, that's the point too. I wanted, because I thought, I'd be nervous if I'm watching a movie like, oh, this is going to be, So you just want to put everybody at ease, hopefully, and say that's a real musician, a real rock star. Yeah. So I buy that. Now the world I believe totally. So now I can learn this story about this love and her, because she's the real deal. So if the movie is not authentic as she is, because she is the real deal, then it's set up for failure.
And also the songs are part of the plot. This isn't just a collection of old-time songs.
We don't they're all original except for the cover of La Vie en Rose, and she sings the preamble to Somewhere Over the Rainbow walking up the garage alley. But no, yeah, they're all original songs that she wrote and I wrote, and Lucas Nelson, Jason Isbell, Mark Ronson, Hillary Lindsay. We had great writers. And it's character. Things are occurring within the songs. I mean, my favorite acting of hers is actually the last song, to watch her, Allie, grieve. There's really no scene of her grieving, really. That's the song.
You mentioned Jason Isbell just there in passing. I'm a huge fan of Jason Isbell.
Oh, man. He wrote Maybe It's Time, that song. Yeah.
And I've been listening to his stuff most of the morning. I was thinking that musically, I imagine Jackson would have been a huge fan of Jason Isbell.
No question. Yeah. No, he's really incredible. You know who else is amazing is Brandi Carlile, who sings the Roy Orbison tribute. That's the female singer. And if you like Jason Isbell, you've got to get her latest album.
And just a word on your speaking voice.
Yeah.
So your older brother is Sam Elliott, and the two of you sound like brothers. But what did you do to your voice? Because we're used to this voice that you're speaking in now. But where does that come from? How did you get that?
That was probably the hardest thing. I worked with this guy Tim Monick, who's an incredible dialect coach, who I worked with on American Sniper, and he just moved to L.A. And luckily, it's all about prep. I had three years to prep this movie. And I spent a good 6 months, I think, 5 days a week, 2 or 3 hours a day, doing all these exercises, listening to all these Sam Elliott interviews, and just working on lowering my voice. And at first, I could only do it with my head down like this. And I thought, well, how am I going to be able to? And it was painful, actually. I felt like I was physically lowering my.
So is it muscular? Is that
I
what
think
you're
it's
doing?
muscle memory what starts to happen, because you can only really do it relaxed. That's the point. So you muscle it first, and then the more exercise. I mean, I would have like a leaflet of 20 pages, all with exercises I would do every day. It was just monotonous.
And each time it's getting
It
lower.
would just get lower and then more comfortable. The key is that I could speak to you like this, because you have to be emotionally available and present, not thinking like I'm trying to affect a voice. So it just takes practice and practice and practice. And I remember the day that it clicked, and I was so thankful, because I thought, if I don't get this, then it's not going to work.
And is that always in your repertoire? Can you go there anytime, or are you happy to leave that?
No, it's gone. He's gone.
I'm not asking you to do it.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering whether
it could almost through. If you and I watched like 3 scenes right now, I think I could probably glide right into it.
In the old days, they might have said, smoke 60 cigarettes and have some Jack Daniels, and maybe you'll get there. And what kind of a director are you, do you think? I found this quote from Clint Eastwood, who you mentioned earlier, talking about you, saying he loves to know everything that's going on. He loves the whole process. I see a lot of curiosity in him. I don't know, and he thinks he's a little bit like you're a little bit like him. Would you go along with that?
Yeah, I mean, John Huston, I think one of the last things he was asked what his favorite thing is about himself, and I think he said curiosity. So I'm paraphrasing it, but I am very curious, and I love cinema, and it's served me since I was a kid in every single way possible. So I've always been fascinated, and he's right. I ask 1,000 questions, and I love learning, I think because I've been that way for 20 plus years I've been in this business, it really provided me with the skill set to kind of just gently move into this position without, it didn't feel unnatural in any way directing this. It really didn't at all.
So does that mean your next project, you are going to be easier to direct, or does this mean that your next project is you directing? What do we get next?
You know, I've never been more fulfilled, and I enjoy directing while I'm acting in a scene. I actually think that's when I could be most effective as a director, is actually to be on the field with the actors. As long as I prepped enough and I know exactly what I want, I know what my shots are. So Maddie Libatique, the cinematographer, we've already talked about everything. And you can make adjustments on the fly. There's no, and you can, it's all about rhythm when you're shooting a scene. And so when you're in the scene, I don't have to yell, I don't have to say cut, I don't have to do anything. I could just actually maneuver things as we're rolling, because I'm actually in it with them. So I love that. That's my favorite thing I've ever done in this profession. And that's all I'd really want to do if people would allow me to do it.
I suspect after the success of this movie, and there's lots of award chatter, as you know, but we don't need to go there just yet. Bradley Cooper, thank you very much indeed for talking to us.
Thank you. Sorry if I talk too much.
Hey, it's your picture. You can talk as much as you want.